Okay, in this video, I have a strategy that will blow your mind away. I'm going to stretch that mind so it never comes back to the same size it is right now. It's a metaphor. And you will never think of real estate ever again the same way you do now. This strategy is called a sandwich lease option transfer. It's a slot deal. It was a joke when we first started this whole thing because I would say, I'm going to go get a slot deal. And my buddy Pete, who's Pete the rookie from our podcast, what are you talking about, Bill? Well, I'm going to go put $10 in the machine. I'm going to pull the bandit arm and $10,000 is going to come out. He goes, really? And that's exactly what I started doing. Now today, what I'm going to do is really like ding this into your mind. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking like this face to face with you. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a clip from a meetup that I did where I explained it pictorially. I have a whiteboard and I draw pictures so you can understand what all the pieces and parts are going to go on. Then I have a seminar that I charged a lot of money for. People came to, and we spent some time together, and I did this up on a whiteboard. So I took a clip out of that seminar. So there's two videos or two clips I'm going to show you, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how this actually works. So hang tight. I'm going to show you the first clip with the whiteboard. It's me drawing pictures on there so you can see how the deal actually flows. Then I'm going to come back and for a couple minutes, and then we're going to go watch the other clip, which is all of the math and how you make money and all that stuff. Okay, so here's the first clip. So take some notes, okay? Is in real estate, if you got a $200,000 house, what I do is I buy the rights for $100. Now, the law says you need to use consideration. You have to procure the deal with consideration. Consideration means paper money. See, United States government, the Constitution says that we can't print paper money. That's a whole nother story. So you could use $1 to buy this. Some people use, like Pete uses $10. But I use $100. I feel like it's more professional. So I'm buying the rights to sell this property for $200,000. For $100, I have the right to buy or sell this property. And if I promise the customer $200,000, any price above that. If for some reason you bring this house to the market and it's not worth $200,000, all you're jeopardizing is your $100 or your $10 or your $1. If you bring this house to the market and you sell it for $220,000, you make $20,000. Okay? Now watch this. If you have a house, okay, and we'll say it's worth $200K, and this is your seller, and then this is your buyer. And this is you. And you do, like I said, you call someone up on the phone on a rent to own, because this is a slot deal. This is a sandwich lease option transfer. Okay. And this guy says that he's willing to give you an option agreement for $200,000. And let's say his payments just for mathematical reasons is $1,000. So he's willing to sell for $200K and $1,000 a month. That's the option that you sign right here. And you give him $100 to have the right to do this. You go find a buyer that's willing to pay $210,000 and $1,000 a month. What you're going to do is you're going to take this option and you're going to assign it with one document. Actually, let me put that here. You're going to assign this deal to your buyer. Your buyer is going to give you $10,000 down. That's option. That's considered non-refundable option agreement because they're putting it towards the option. Okay. So what happens is you get to keep the 10 grand, and when they give you $10,000 down, the balance is $200,000. Right? So he's giving you $10,000, which is, by the way, 5%, which is very customary down. And all you're doing here is just you're buying an option agreement for $100 and selling it for $10,000. You don't own the property. You don't do a closing. You don't do anything. You don't need to be a genius. You don't have to do anything. If you've ever rented a house before, you could do this. All you're doing, what you're getting paid for, is to find the buyer and find the seller. The house has nothing to do with it. It's just a device for these people to do this paperwork. So in a slot deal, so it's a sandwich lease option transfer. So you're going to write an option agreement for $210,000 or $200,000 when you buy it, and you're going to write a lease for $1,000 a month. You're going to take that lease and that option, and when you find your buyer, you're going to write an assignment, which is a one-page document, and you're going to assign all that obligations, which in this lease, you're going to have all the language about how they plow the snow, they cut the grass, all that stuff is going to be in this lease. You're going to assign this paperwork from you to them. And you make money doing it. All right, pretty cool, huh? The point that I'd like to make at this exact moment is that because we're selling the buyer a property, they're not a tenant. We're not doing landlord anything. We're going to actually promise our seller that we are going to assign to our buyer all the landlord obligations. And we never, meaning us as the investor, never take on landlord obligations. No matter what transaction we do, from this one all the way through the other 6 that we're going to cover the next couple days, we never take on landlord obligations. We always give them to the buyer. Think of it this way. If you were to go on vacation and rent a car, right? Would you wash that car? Would you change the tires? Would you do a tune-up? Would you do an oil change? Would you take care of the car like that? Well, of course not. It's a rental car. You're there for a couple of days. You might wash it, barely, but you're not going to destroy it, but you're not going to take that extra care to make sure that the car is taken care of. But if you own the car, then you're definitely going to wash it. You're definitely going to change the oils. You're going to definitely, change tires, get it tuned up. You're going to take a lot better care of it. This is exactly how the tenant buyer thinks. They put up a chunk of dough 5%, sometimes 10% as a non-refundable deposit, that they can only get that money at a closing. If they leave the house for whatever reason, they forfeit the money. So they're going to take care of this house. They're going to take care of the lawn and the snow, and they're going to take care of everything. Okay? So that's what we do. All right, enough of that. Let's go on to the next clip where I show you the math of all this. This is a pretty cool way to look at the transaction. So again, grab your notebook because you're going to want to take some notes, and let me flip over to that clip, and then we'll come back and end off the video, okay? Cool, here we go. Good. Let's do a slot deal. Let me give you examples, okay? You ready? Slot, sandwich lease option deal. The guy owes $100,000. He owes $100,000. I'm sorry, the house is worth $100,000. He owes $100,000. How much equity is there? That's this number right here, right? It's 100% loan to value. Thank you. 0% equity, right? Here's how we do this deal. Oh, by the way, his payment is just for even numbers. His payment's not going to be, but his payment's $1,000 a month, just for conversation. On $100,000, it wouldn't be $1,000 a month, but let's just for conversation, okay? You could buy this house for $100,000. He's stuck, right? If he goes to the realtor, how much is it going to cost him to sell this house? How many deals have you done? Okay, I'm giving you a hard time. I'm going to tell you right now that that's a myth. Because if he sells that house for $100,000, it's about $9,000 to sell that house. $9 to $10,000. And here's the reason why. You're going to pay $6,000 to the realtor. On the MLS right now, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 97% of the offer is what you're getting. 95 to 97% of the offer. So that means if you list a house for $100,000, what are the offers going to be? 95 to 97,000. That's the way it is right now. So you're given another 3 to 5% for negotiation. If you try to price the house to make up for that negotiation, you don't show the house. So you have to know this before you put it on the MLS. Then you're going to have the almighty, and I say that with such strong passion, the almighty inspection. You know what that is? When you pay $399 and that little guy is going to, and I hope there's not somebody, and if there's somebody in this room, don't tell me you're in this room because we're going to have a conversation. But for $399, they're going to come into the house and they're going to prove that their $399 was worth it by finding everything wrong with the house. I'm wound up. What's that? Nope. They're going to find things that don't even exist or that aren't a problem, but they're going to scare the crap out of who? The bank. The bank. Not the buyer. You can smoothen the buyer out. The bank, who, by the way, is in Colorado. They're not in Connecticut. They can't see. They just see, oh, well, he's got a license. He must be right. Yeah.
Does every transaction have to have an inspector say if a friend sold the house to another friend?
My heart just went in my throat. I thought you were going to tell me I'm an inspector. If it's got a loan, it has an inspection.
And what does SLOT stand for, the slot?
Sandwich, lease, option, transaction. I'm going to show it to you in 1 minute. Okay? So are we good with that? You understand why I'm saying it's going to be 9 or 10%? Because by the time you pay the 6%, you pay the 3 to 5% for negotiating, and you pay for the inspection money, you know, whatever, because you're going to have to settle something. It's either your negotiating price or you're doing repairs. And I think it's 2 or 3%. And my experience has been at least 2%. And then, well, that's correct if you're an investor. If you're not an investor, you're living in the house, then there's no argument there. But yes, if the house is vacant, yeah, you're making tax payments, you're making insurance payments, and you're making mortgage payments, right? But just taking that away because some people live in their house. So just taking that away for a second, you're still 9 or 10%.
Bill, in Mary Wallingford, there's also when you're selling, you've got to give them that property tax credit too.
That's right.
So you have that avenue too.
That's right. So in Meriden, there's 2 cities in Connecticut that pay their taxes in front instead of in the rears. So that means that the seller pays the buyer taxes. No, property taxes.
Okay, no, it's in the rear.
Oh, then I got it backwards.
That's why the seller.
Oh, it's backwards. Yeah. Did you? Yeah. You're talking about the conveyance fee?
No, I'm talking about like when you negotiate it, sometimes you're talking about credit for closing costs. Yeah.
Oh, seller concession is credit for closing costs. I understand. Yeah. Well, taking all that stuff away, I'm just talking minimum. Yeah, we're not talking. You're right. Seller concession, which today is a big thing. Seller concession is the buyer doesn't have down payment money. You got to give them down payment money. There's another 2 or 3%. I mean, I've seen deals go up 15, 18%. And oh yeah, by the way, the realtors don't tell you that when they list the property. Do you know why? They get paid on the number that they sell for. They don't get paid on the net. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that's what they get paid on. What do you get paid on? The net. What's left over. So you're talking 2 different numbers. Okay? So we're good with that. So if this guy has a $100,000 house, he's coming to the table, the closing table, with at least 8 or 10 grand. At least 8 or 10 grand, maybe 12 or 13 to sell that house. Does that make sense? So that means he comes to the closing table, he gets $100,000, and by the time he nets it out, he's down to $88,000 or $90,000. So he has to take out of his pocket to satisfy the $100,000 mortgage. Not a good deal. Is this guy excited to do this? Probably not. So you come along and say, what if I were to give you a delayed cash out, which means I can't do it within 30 days, but give me 24 months or 36 months and I'll get you the full $100,000. Would you be interested? Yeah. Because you're saving them $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. Right? You with me? Okay. Here's how you do it. This same piece of property, you're going to sell it for 110. Because what you don't realize is 81% of the population right now is not mortgageable. What does that mean? Can't get a mortgage. That's right. Whatever. Doesn't even have to be credit. They just can't get a mortgage. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. The numbers are different here.
What's that?
The numbers are different here.
In Connecticut?
From our last meeting.
Here? Oh.
Yeah. Nobody's that big.
81% of the country is not financeable right now. That means 19% are financeable, right? Yeah? What's your name? Tisha. 19%, right, Tisha? So if you're a realtor, what are you competing for in the market? The 19%. The lower number. So if I come along and I say, Tisha, I know you got a husband. I know you got 3 kids. I know you want to live in this town. I know you want to be like a regular American. And you want to own a house. But Bill, I can't own a house. How come? Well, my husband lost a business like 2 years ago, and we're still trying to pay that debt off. And it's really honest. I mean, it really was. It wasn't malice aforethought. It wasn't like he's just reckless or you guys are bad with money. You had a 780 credit score. Now you got a 610. You can't get a house. Okay? You know what, Keisha? Don't worry. Is it Keisha? Tisha. See how quick I forget? Tisha. Don't worry about it. I got a piece of property for you. How much money you got to put down? Oh, I got $10,000. Okay, I got a piece of property I could put you into. The payment's $1,000 a month. Could you swing that? Yeah, I'll do that. I just sold her this house. Here's the reason why. She's going to give me $10,000 down, right? That $10,000 goes to me. What's the balance if she gives me $10,000? 100 grand. How much do we got to pay for the property? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a lease, a sandwich lease option, because here's your buyer, here's your seller, and we're going to put them together with one lease. Here's your buyer, here's your seller. We're going to tell the seller that he's got a 2-year time period to fix up his fix up his credit and get a mortgage. He's got 2 years, 24 months. He gives us a non-refundable $10,000 deposit. Because when you put a deposit on an option, it's not like renting, where you have to give the money back. You're buying equity in that property with your deposit money on an option. So you become part owner of that property. So you don't need a license to sell it, because now you're part owner of the property. So you get 10 grand, hit National Bank, baby, right? You sign a document that says he's going to pay $1,000 a month, and in 2 years he's got to cash out. If he doesn't cash out in 2 years, he loses his 10 grand, he's got to get out. That's a harsh deal, but just to make the point. Why is it called a sandwich lease option? Because I'm in the middle, Jesse's the buyer, you're the seller, you're a piece of bread, she's a piece of bread, I'm the bologna. Sandwich. Just like that. I like bacon. You get it? Any confusions? Because I'm going to move on.
Do you want to talk about how bulk will be cash out? Like they get a mortgage.
Yeah, within a 2-year period, within a 2-year period, we're going to help them fix their credit. We're going to help them get mortgageable. Now, what if Jesse says to me, Bill, I really like your idea, but what happens if they don't pay? Jesse, if you bring this piece of property to market right now and sold it for 100 grand, how much would it cost you? We just went over that, right? $10,000 or $12,000, right? If they don't pay, it's probably going to be like, what, 3 or 4 grand? It's a lesser of the two evils. However, if I don't get through that conversation, which I lately have been very weak on, what I probably would do is say to them, you know what, instead of giving them no money down, I'll give them $2,000 or $3,000 down, and I'll take 7 grand. And give them 2 or 3 grand in case the guy defaults, they got some play money for either damage or whatever. If they don't pay, they have a couple months worth of, at least they got 3 months worth of payments. Or they got enough money to go get an eviction notice. You understand? You have to make sure when you're doing these deals, you're on both sides of the table. If you take all the money, suck it out of the deal, you don't get the deal. So you have to share the money. You have to share the wealth. You can't, on the other side, take it all away from them because you'll lose it. I always tell my slot deals, if they don't pay you or if there is a problem, please call me. I will help you. Why would I do that? Because if the guy's not paying and they got to get evicted, yeah, I'll work on that deal for a month or 2, which it's not like I'm working on it 40 hours a week. It's a few phone calls. Maybe go out to the property. It's not huge. But when that house is vacant, what do I have a chance to do? Another deal. Another slot deal. Especially if I took care of the guy and he likes me because I did everything I said I was going to do and I protected him. And his lawyer's like, this is good. I'm going to get another slot deal. You good with that? Promise? Because I'm going to move on if you didn't get it.
I don't think I like that one, though.
I'm going to tell you right now, as a new investor, anybody in this room, if you don't have money and you're new in the business, this right here is the fastest way to get going. This is the fastest way to get money.
What happens to the 1,000?
It goes from the buyer to the seller, and the seller pays the mortgage.
So it's a rent to own is basically what it is. Okay? Yeah, it's a lease. What's the difference between a lease and a rent? Anybody know that?
You got a contract for lease.
Okay, you do with a rent too. No?
I always associated lease with it. Not rent, it's month to month or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, you could have a contract on that.
Doesn't the lease make the leaseor more responsible for the property as far as care and maintenance?
That is correct. That is my lease does. Absolutely, but not all of them do. The difference between a lease and a rent is a rent is usually 12 months. A lease is 2 or 3 years. So to Frank's point, it's a contract, but it's longer. You could have a 12-month contract with the guy paying month to month on a rent, right? And you could do a lease for 12 months. You could do a lease for 12 months, but they're usually longer. And to what was your name again? To Mike's point, usually, and I know in my leases, more responsibility is going to be on the person using the property. So like in my leases, I don't pay maintenance, I don't cut the grass, I don't plow the snow, I don't unplug toilets, I don't do any of that. Because their deposit money is going to the option and I am the bank. The other way, I'm the landlord. So a lease is usually longer term, it's more contractual, and there's all the liabilities on the person renting. Right?
Mind-blowing, isn't it? You're buying and selling a piece of paper, not real estate. How can anybody get in trouble with real estate when they have these uncommittal type of documents that are set up by real estate agents? Any realtor can do this. The documents are in their MLS, but they make less money for doing it. That's why they only make 1 month's rent instead of a 5 or 6% commission. So it's not popular. Now here's the thing. You can do this tomorrow. I mean, think about it. You could go on to Facebook Marketplace, go in your area, just type in a zip code, or your Facebook Marketplace is probably already there, and just go on the left-hand column and look for rent. And then just type, just don't even look at the houses. Just type in all the addresses that come up or neighborhoods you want to be in. Just type in the messenger, say something like, would you be willing to rent for a year or two and then sell it to me? And just do that 5-10 times a day. And you'll find one of these slot people, especially after the pandemic. A lot of people overpaid for property, and they're going to need to do a deal like this because they can't afford to pay the 10 or 12 or 15% in closing costs. And they don't have the money to come to the closing table to pay off their loan or do what they're supposed to do. So this is a very popular strategy. Last thing I'd like to say is it kicks the living butt out of wholesaling. For you wholesalers that are listening to me right now, why try to buy a property for 40, 50, 60 cents on a dollar? Call 10,000 people before you buy one. These deals you could make just as much money, if not more, and you could actually find these deals because people will want you to relieve them of an overpaid property or over-leveraged property or a property they owe too much money on. Okay? It's a very, very exciting strategy. So please take a couple minutes, watch the video again, take your notes. If you're not already in my email course and you're getting videos every day like this for 8 or 10 days, then click on the link below, get signed up, because I have a whole bunch of videos like this that will show you how you can buy not only this strategy. Now think of this, I just showed you one strategy. There's 6 more that are like this. The last one we're going to do is how to buy a house for $260,000, how to sell the house for $260,000, and make 84 grand. It's just math, folks. So stick around, open your emails over the next couple days, and let's go through it together. Thanks for watching my video, and we'll meet soon, I hope.